The next session will be presented by Malta Council for Science and Technology, and we'll be talking about internationalization schemes. And Deputy Director Corinne Muscat-Terrible will be presenting us with the latest updates in internalization areas. And Maria Zaparti will continue the presentation.
Thank you, Elena. Good afternoon. So I am Corinne Muscat. I work within the Internationalization unit. It's the latest addition within the technical units at MCST. Just a recap, the main objectives of the unit is to expand international strategic partnerships, promote international R&I collaboration, strengthening science diplomacy, as well as enhancing Malta's attractiveness as an R&I destination. My presentation will mainly be focusing on the general aspects of the program, so the things that are common between all the programs that we administer, and then Maria, my colleague, will be providing a deeper dive into the programs that are currently open, as well as the ones that will be opening within the next couple of months. So, as regards to the internationalization schemes, first and foremost, these are schemes that are funded through national funds, but one would need to collaborate with international partners in order to be able to tap into the funding. As regards to support to different technology readiness levels, the schemes that we currently are running usually allow us to support TRLs from 1 to 7. As regards to current thematic areas that we are supporting, we currently have programs focusing on research and innovation in the field of agriculture, blue economy, digital technologies, food, green transitions, health, maritime services, and water management. However, having said that, we are continuously adding more thematic areas, even looking into other thematic areas for next year. So please get in touch, as thematic areas might change even next year. So the types of programs, we operate bilateral programs where MCST would formulate a collaborative agreement with another funding agency, or else multilateral programs, which are more of a pan-European nature, made up of a consortium of funding partners across Europe and also international ones. In our case, projects, as I said before, shall need to be made up of a consortia of partners. So in bilateral programs, one would need to have at least 2 partners, one from each participating country. Whilst with respect to multilateral programs, the minimum size of the consortium shall mainly depend on the program. However, the vast majority of programs that we currently have will not allow projects to proceed unless they have at least 3 partners coming from 3 different participating countries. Our unit not only provides assistance in the application process, but it also organizes a number of networking activities, or else supporting researchers to participate in networking activities at a program level. And we also support researchers when it comes to searching for partners, either through our local online hub, plumtree.org, or else through the online platforms that are also usually available at a program level. So at the moment, we have 6 ongoing programs. I will not delve too much into them, as I said, Maria will be focusing more on these programs. The Sino-Malta and the MCST Tubitak are bilateral calls, whilst the Prima, Martera, and Blue Bio Co-Fund are pan-European multilateral programs. With respect to future funding opportunities within our unit, we will also be managing what are known as member state-led partnerships under the umbrella of Horizon Europe. So this part of Horizon Europe is supported through national funds. So that is why MCST will be providing a more active facilitatory role in this case. With respect to these Horizon Europe partnerships, CST will be actively supporting these three main partnerships, which is the European Partnership for Clean Energy Transition, European Partnership on Health and Care Systems Transformation, and the European Partnership for a Climate Neutral, Sustainable and Productive Blue Economy. As I said before, the partnerships will be a key implementation tool of Horizon Europe and will contribute significantly to achieving common political priorities across different European countries by pooling together national resources that would otherwise won't be able to solve at a national level. I move on to the administrative considerations when it comes to applications under the internationalization portfolio. So usually our schemes require a two-stage submission process where we first request a short pre-proposal where one is providing information on the consortium, the aspect of excellence within the project, as well as the foreseen impact. Then, if they are successful, projects will then pass to a full proposal stage where an in-depth overview of the methodology as well as budget allocations will usually be requested. At the moment, the programs have a budget range of between 200,000 and 500,000, supporting projects within a budget of 100,000 as well to 500,000. The evaluation process works differently. So when it comes to multilateral programs, this is done centrally by the program manager. Whilst for bilateral programs, this takes place nationally by the two collaborating funding agencies. We support projects that are of a duration between 2 to 3 years. All our schemes are cash grants, and as I said before, all our schemes currently support TRL 1 to TRL 7. The international schemes are basically eligible to undertakings such as companies, partnerships, cooperatives, professional bodies, self-employed individuals, NGOs, and non-profit making entities. But obviously, they are also open to public research and knowledge dissemination organizations such as University of Malta, as well as governmental entities. In the case of the international programs, it is not mandatory to have a national public-private collaboration on board. However, this is still highly encouraged as the multi-actor approach is usually one of the evaluation criteria of the programs. So, apologies, I don't know why it's not showing properly. So the international schemes operate under three main funding pillars. So we have the de minimis and the GBER schemes that are usually taken up by private companies, that is entities that undertake an economic activity. When it comes to public ROs and governmental entities that do not undertake an economic activity under the meaning of Article 107, one can apply for the non-state aid route. And this means that there is no need for co-financing to take place, and one can fund their project 100% from MCST. When it comes to how we classify a research and development project as non-state aid, one would need to, so it doesn't mean that University of Malta, sometimes it can be considered as an economic activity and sometimes as a non-economic activity, and this depends on the nature of the research. So in order to be considered as a non-economic activity as defined in Commission Framework for State Aid for RD&I, the PIs shall need to provide education for more and better skilled human resources through the R&D project, Independent R&D should be therefore more knowledge and understanding, including collaborative R&D. There should be wide dissemination of research results on a non-exclusive and non-discriminatory basis, for example, through teaching, open access databases, open publications, as well as open software. And also knowledge transfer activities will also need to be present, and they are conducted either by the RO or the research infrastructure, while all profits from such activities are then reinvested into the primary activities of the RO. Therefore, the applicant shall need to intend to publicize widely the results of the research. They must license on a non-discriminatory terms any intellectual property rights resulting from the research of the market price for the said IPR. Any income from the licensing of IPR shall, however, need to be reinvested in the primary educational and research activities of the beneficiaries. Something also to keep in mind when it comes to indirect state aid. If, for example, one would have a national applicant coming from university in collaboration with another national applicant, which is an undertaking, the concept of indirect state aid shall need to be kept in mind, as there might be state aid that is transferred from university, for example, to the private entity. And this was obviously needs to be identified beforehand and included within the non-state aid declaration forms, or else reported throughout the duration of the project. What is usually eligible? So we support personnel costs and the support roles of a project manager, researcher, as well as other operational technician or research support assistants. However, keeping in mind that there is a capping of 10% for project management costs. When it comes to specialized equipment and consumables, for the non-state aid route, we support the costs related, the overall costs related to specialized equipment that would be used for the project, including software, and there is only a capping on the consumables where this should not exceed the 30% value of the project value. When it comes to travel and subsistence, this again is an eligible cost. However, it varies according to the aim of the different programs. We also support other operating expenses depending on the nature of the project. However, it is highly encouraged that researchers approach the council beforehand to see whether this would satisfy the eligibility criteria or not. We also support costs of IP and knowledge transfer activities as long as they are bought or licensed from outside sources at arm's length conditions, as well as subcontracted activities, which is capped at 25% of the project value. However, keeping in mind that this cannot be a substantial part of the project and only a facilitatory one. Overheads, our programs typically provide overheads at 10% of the direct eligible costs, excluding the costs of subcontracting. And there are also some cappings on the overheads that can be provided on equipment and consumable costs. What is ineligible? So expenses which are recoverable through other funding mechanisms. So it is important to keep note that there is no double funding. The repurchase of the same equipment originally procured through other funding mechanisms, the purchase of equipment from partners or their subsidiaries, standard office equipment, as well as personnel hours for traveling. Thank you very much. I will now pass the floor to my colleague Maria.
Okay. Let me see. Okay. Thank you very much, Corinne, for your insightful general overview about the internationalization programs and the opportunities for our stakeholders. My contribution as a continuation to Corinne's presentation, I will be delving deeper into each and every program that is launched or supported by the Internationalization Unit within MCST. And I'll start off by giving you a brief overview of these programs. So I'll start off by mentioning the JPI Oceans related ERANET, Smart ERA and Blue Bio. We also participate in the PRIMA initiative, as well as the two bilateral calls, MCST Tubitak and Sino Malta. Starting off with the first Blue Bio, with the first program, the Blue Bio ERNET Co-Fund. This is the only program that has got an open call at the moment. In fact, all the other calls have already opened and closed during the first quarter of this year. And so if you are interested in any of these calls, kindly get in touch with us around November, December, so that we can guide you further on whether these calls are going to open again and the thematic areas that will be funded. So starting off with Blue Bio, just to give you a brief overview of this program, it is a successor of different ERANETs, COFASP and MBT, the two ERANETs that tackled, so as to say, shellfish processing, aquaculture, fisheries, as well as marine biotechnology. So Blue Bio is a successor of these ERANETs, and the main objective, so as to say, of Blue Bio is to strengthen Europe's position in the blue bioeconomy by generating more knowledge about the value chain. So if you had to take a look at the value chain of the blue bioeconomy, you've got bioresources at one end, and these need to be converted into something of added value, bio-based products and services that would be that need to be accepted and uptaken by citizens. So there is a strong socio-economic aspect within this call that needs to be taken into consideration when you are setting up your consortium. So there needs to be a very strong multi-actor approach. And so while this program seems to be targeted to biologists, marine biologists, conservationists, it is not, these should not be the only stakeholders to be involved. There are a lot of opportunities for engineers, bioinformaticians, data analysts, expertise in artificial intelligence. So it is very important to have a strong and widely varied expertise in terms of consortium. So in terms of a timeline of the program, the first call was a co-funded call whereby the European Commission topped the financial contributions of the member states. That was in 2018. The launch was in 2018. And subsequent to that, there were two other additional calls. In fact, the first additional call was concluded this May. And now we've just launched the second additional call in June, and this is currently open up until the 20th of September. So the pre-proposal deadline is the 20th of September. Now, if you had to take a look at the timeline of the call, so we've just opened it, launched it in June, the pre-proposal submission would be in September, then we will undertake the administrative check on both a local level as well as on an international level in September. That will take us a month or so. After that, there will be a scientific evaluation that, as Corinne mentioned, it is centrally undertaken by the program manager, by the secretariat, and then in December we will know the outcome of the pre-proposals that were submitted. After that, those that will be selected will be invited to submit a full proposal in February, and by May then we'll know the full proposal selection. So the second additional call is particularly focused on the two extremes of the value chain. So the resource management, so the suppliers to the primary producers and the biomass producers, and the other extreme, the market, the regulatory constraints, traceability. We will not be focusing on the middle section because previous projects that were funded during the first two calls specifically focused on these particular areas. So we wanted to try and finance projects that tackle the whole value chain throughout the whole programming period. So here you can see the three different thematic areas that will be funded through this call and the number of topics within each of the thematic areas. Just to give you a brief overview, the first thematic area, A and B, actually have to do with resource management, so the sustainable exploration of aquatic environment and biological resources, and sustainable and resilient biomass production and processing. Lastly, in C, it has to do with the market side, traceability and regulatory constraints. For more information, obviously, you can contact us so that we can provide you with more information, especially with respect to the topics. So yes, the call is focused on advancing resource management, market and social aspects in the blue bioeconomy value chains. The consortium composition has got a threshold. There needs to be at least 3 entities from 3 different blue bio partner countries, and these include Belgium, Denmark, Estonia, Iceland, Ireland, Italy, Malta, Norway, and Croatia. The consortium must include both a research performing organization, such as the University of Malta, as well as industry. However, industry is not mandatory on a local level. It is mandatory on an international consortium level. The duration of these calls must be less than 36 months. And the national budget is of 300,000 euros. A local entity can apply for the whole 300,000 euros. Per project, obviously, and each local entity can submit more than one project. The pre-proposal submission deadline, as I mentioned earlier, is the 20th of September 2021. I included this slide so that any interested stakeholders or potential applicants can know where to start finding partners. Obviously, we at the internationalization unit, we can help you with partner searches. However, you can also start looking into different partners who are already interested in this call by going into this platform. You can also use a search engine to write Blue Bio Brokerage Event Second Additional Call, and this platform will appear, a B2Match platform that is organized by that is set up by the Secretariat. There you can find, there is a tab, participants, where you can find already 36 interested entities that are obviously interested to participate in this call. As I mentioned earlier, obviously, you can also ask us so that we can help you with partner searching. So that was it, more or less, about Blue Bio. I repeat, that is the only call that we have currently open. So all the calls that I will be mentioning as from now on, you will have to wait for next year, for the first quarter of next year, more or less, in order for calls to be launched. However, it is good that you are aware of these calls because you can already start setting up your networks. You may start networking in order to develop your project ideas if these calls will be launched. So the partnership for R&I in the Mediterranean area is also known as PRIMA. It is an Article 185 initiative for a programming period of 10 years. And once again, this project focuses on partnering countries in the Mediterranean region, trying to address common problems in the Mediterranean area, such as water scarcity and overexploitation of natural resources, population growth and food security issues, lack of innovation in the Mediterranean agro-food value chains, unsustainable agricultural practices, agrobiodiversity loss, climate change, etc. So the thematic areas that are addressed through PRIMA projects are water management, sustainable farming systems, as well as the agro-food value chain. Once again, here, there is also the importance of a multi-actor approach. So there can be, once again, engineering, artificial intelligence, machine learning. For instance, we had projects with drones that map fields, that can that are used for crop irrigation, GIS sensing, for instance, to manage groundwater, for instance. So it is very, very important that you keep an open mind and try to apply your expertise into these topics. Just to give you a brief overview of the PRIMA programming structure, since it can be a little bit complicated for those of you who are not really familiar to the program, there are 3 sections to PRIMA. Section 1 and Section 2 both launch R&I calls. And the only difference is that Section 1 calls are funded, managed, and organized by the PRIMA Secretariat. So they are on an EU level. They are funded by the EU. On the other hand, the Section 2 are funded by local entities. So each local entity will be funded by MCST. So just to give you an example, if a consortium is made up of Malta, a local entity, a Maltese entity, an Algerian entity, and an Italian entity, the local entity will be funded by MCST, the Italian entity will be funded by the Italian, by our Italian counterparts, and the Algerian will be funded by their own funding entity, so that you can get an idea of how this works. The Section 3 aspect, so as to say, of the programming structure include any activities that funding entities, local funding entities, for instance, MCST, can organize in order to promote more participation in the Section 2 and Section 1 calls. In fact, MCST is one of the most active funding entities in this regard, and this year, we have launched a bilateral call, MCST to BITAC, and for the second time, also, we've launched a proposal writing assistance scheme specific to PRIMA. Just to give you a brief outline, once again, of the timeline of the calls, the first call was launched in 2018, and now we're in our fourth call. It is a 2-stage call. So once again, you will need to submit a pre-proposal. So for those pre-proposals that were submitted in March, right now we are going to be selecting the pre-proposal. So they have gone through an admin check and scientific evaluation, and now in June, July, we are going to select the pre-proposals. Once these are selected, they will be invited to the second step, when they will need to submit a full proposal in September. By December, you will know the outcome of the call. For Section 2 calls, just a little bit about the consortium composition, it must include 3 entities from 3 different PRIMA participating countries. 1 must come from an EU member state, 1 must come from a non-EU member state, the 3rd can come from either. The duration of these projects cannot be longer than 36 months, and the national budget is of 500,000 euros. So the MCST to BITAC bilateral stems from, obviously, it's a Section 3 participating state initiated activity. The thematic areas of the MCST to BITAC bilateral are very similar, are identical to PRIMA. So this call has come from a collaborative agreement between the 2 funding agencies, between MCST and our Turkish counterpart to BITAC. And this year, we've launched our very first call. As I told you, the thematic areas are the same, and the deadline for the full proposal submission was the 17th of June. So for these calls, for this call, the consortium composition had to be, the minimum was at least 1 Malta-based entity and 1 Turkey-based entity, and the duration of this call, they couldn't exceed 24 months. The national budget was that of 200,000 euros to fund 2 projects, meaning that each and every project could not ask for more than 100,000 euros. And we would like to fund a research project, so a low TRL level project, and an RDI project, a slightly higher TRL level project. In terms of the timeline, so as I told you, this is a one-stage call. They submitted the full proposals by the 17th of June. We are currently undertaking the admin check. Once both funding entities are complete the admin check, then we will move on to the scientific evaluation of these pre-proposals, and eventually by November we will know the outcome of the ranking list that comes about from the scientific evaluation. The last program that I will be mentioning is a very successful project. It is also a bilateral, and it is a result of an ongoing collaboration between MCST and MOST, the Ministry of Science and Technology of the People's Republic of China. So once again, we've got a very good collaboration with our Chinese counterparts. And the main objective of this fund is to intensify scientific collaboration and strengthen R&D activities. Obviously, technology transfer is very, very important between the two countries. The long-term cooperation through researcher mobility and networking, and generating this mutual beneficial and win-win research. In terms of a timeline, this is a two-stage call. So once again, we've launched the call in April. There was the pre-proposal submission in May. Currently, we are undertaking the admin check and will be communicating the outcome to the applicants. We will invite the submission for full proposals in August, so that the submission can take place in September, October. There will be another admin check and the scientific evaluation in October. By December, you will know the outcome of this call. The thematic areas for this year were health innovations, green transitions, and digital technologies. This is a bottom-up call, and so kind of the sky is the limit when it comes to what you can come up with in terms of ideas. It is also important for you to know that the thematic areas can change next year. So keep on the lookout, see our spaces, our social media platforms, our website, in order to keep updated. So yes. In terms of consortium composition, there must be at least one Malta-based entity and one China-based entity. The duration of these projects cannot be longer than 24 months. We've got a national budget of 600,000 euros to fund 3 projects, one in each thematic area. So for more information, kindly look into our website, the Funding Opportunities page. We've got several emails. You can send your email, a generic email, to international.mcst@gov.mt, our social media platforms on Facebook and LinkedIn, and also, very, very important, Plumtree. In fact, I'll be dedicating just a few minutes on Plumtree to tell you all about it. Basically, it is the Mediterranean R&D platform where you've got a one-stop shop to look into different opportunities, and also we can use it as a means of dissemination, as part of your dissemination strategies. So here you can network, you can share knowledge, and so you've got a very, very good tool that you can use, and it is free, and it is very important for you also to make yourself visible, especially when you need to internationalize your ideas. So you can see that you can click on the link plumtree.org in order to visit this platform. You can log in or register if you are new to this platform. You can look into the different tabs that are that you can see on your slides. There are the news, events, and opportunities. Opportunities in terms of looking into what calls are being launched, different jobs and internships, scholarships and fellowships, as well as search for partners. So if you would like to search for partners, you can submit your research profile, and you can make yourself visible to partners who are interested in a particular call. On the other hand, it goes both ways. So you can also search for partners by looking into what others have written down. Also, if you have any material that you would like us to include on Plumtree in these tabs, you can do so by sending us your material to plumtree.mcst@gov.mt. In addition, there is a tab called Registered Profiles where you can update your own profile and also search for profiles. Don't forget, this is a networking tool, so you can use certain keywords that you would like. For instance, you would need the expertise of an engineer, a specific engineer. You can write these feedbacks and use obviously the filters that are available to find the most suitable partner for your consortium. We also have a matchmaking tool whereby you can find a list of the calls, of the internationalization calls, and there you can find other interested applicants. You have to register your interest and you can look into who is also interested in that specific call. We also can help with finding partners by providing you with a template that we can then share with with other national contact points, as well as with local entities who may want to collaborate with you. So if you have any questions about Plumtree, you can email us on either international.mcst@gov.mt or also the specific Plumtree email, plumtree.mcst@gov.mt. I would like to thank you for your attention, and I hope that we can be of assistance so that you would be successful in submitting your application in the near future. Thank you very much.
This was the last presentation of today and the last presentation of the Grants Week. Thank you very much for everyone participating. If there is no questions from the audience, we can conclude on this, and we will be following up with the email, sending the link to all recorded sections, and we'll be updating the University of Malta website with information about opportunities presented during the Grants Week. Thank you very much, and bye.